After Hart finished the remaining water, he suddenly noticed something moving on the cup. Curious, he wiped it off with his finger, only to discover it was a newly hatched insect egg. He didn't think much of the tiny thing and simply squished it by rubbing his fingers together. Then, he left the ward. A group of wealthy individuals were standing in the water, undergoing treatment, and nothing about it seemed particularly odd at first glance. But when Hart turned around, he saw these massive men, each weighing several hundred pounds, moving through the water like fish, effortlessly holding their breath for hours. At that moment, a nurse suddenly appeared. When she asked Hart for his name, he deliberately gave the chairman's name, which allowed him to learn the location of his boss in the sauna room. Hart headed straight there. Once inside, he was stunned to find that all the rooms looked identical, and the doors closed automatically. Just as Hart started to panic, another passage opened up behind him. The deer that had been hit and killed was casually strolling inside. Intrigued, Hart followed it and reached the inn, where he found his boss. The man had no intention of leaving, insisting that he was ill and could only be cured at the sanatorium. Hart urged him strongly to return, but the boss dove straight into the water. It had already been half an hour, far beyond human limits. When the boss finally emerged, he surprisingly agreed to go back with Hart. As Hart went to call a car, he was suddenly drawn by a sound. At the top of the castle, a girl was feeding fish. It was the same person who had watched him leave earlier. Hannah had lived in the sanatorium since childhood and never set foot outside the castle. When a stranger approached her, she nervously fled the scene. By the time Hart returned to the ward, his boss had vanished. He tracked down the director and demanded to know where the boss had gone. Hart could no longer tolerate it. He felt the sanatorium was a complete sham, swindling the elderly with nothing but nutrient solutions. But the director responded with an irrelevant remark. When Hart woke up again, he suspected it might be internal injuries from the car accident, so he had no choice but to stay for treatment. However, on the director's desk, he spotted a photo of Hannah. The director claimed she had a special condition and had always treated her like a daughter, deliberately shifting the topic to make Hart's treatment more engaging. As a result, he was led into a special container.